Now, you mentioned relationships. What are some of the stuff that entrepreneurs can do to build that relationship over time, particularly online?
Well, in addition to recency, the most important thing is value. And there's two parts of value. The first is that you give them something that they want. So let's say you own a nursery. Well, you don't just say, we've got new roses in, but you might say, 5 tips for improving the lifespan of your roses once they're in the vase, for instance. And that's something that we'd all like to know. I'd like to know how to keep flowers, for a week longer than normal. So people will read that, they'll send it on to other people, and then they'll look at you in a different way. What way is that? As an authority. The more quality information you give people, the more help you give people, the more of an authority that you look like, and people like to deal with authorities. There's also, I think, a real aspect of reciprocation. I think it's built into most humans that if you do something for them, then they want to return the favor. So even subconsciously, they're more likely to do business with you if you've helped them rather than just asking for the sale.
Now, you mentioned courses and mentors. How do you as a business owner go about finding, attracting, and really utilising qualified mentors who've been there, done that experience?
Well, that's a terrific question. It's a funny thing. At the Fortune Institute, our point of difference is entrepreneurs are teaching you. So it's people who actually have built businesses teaching you. And the danger is that you go to coaches who actually haven't built anything. And so the first thing I'd say is look for someone who has either done it themselves or can show you actual case studies of helping other people, like tangible differences they've made to the business. Because it's a bit of it can be a flaky industry, that whole business coaching industry. So really do the homework and read testimonials from people who've been helped. So I think that's the first thing about picking someone to help you. And I really do believe that just having someone, whether it's you join an online school or you've got an actual physical coach, just having someone there will make all the difference. There's a very interesting study that you may know of called the Hawthorne effect that was in 1928, where they found that simply having factory workers that knew that people were watching them improved their performance. And so if you just have a coach, that in itself will improve your performance. But secondly, in addition to finding a coach that you think is genuinely experienced, either with their own experience or in helping others, I think it's really important to find someone that you get on with, because hopefully it's a long relationship, and you want to feel comfortable that you can tell them everything about your life to do a business, and tell them the mistakes that you've made and your fears. And unless you're relaxed enough with someone to do that, then you're only getting 50% of the impact then that you could be.
So I'm a developing entrepreneur going into a meeting with a mentor. What are some of the questions I'm asking? What's the discussion that I want to have with them?
Well, I think first of all you have to lay out the foundation of the scenario. Sometimes people get in conversations and they haven't told them the key points about the business. Let's say there's 10 key points about the business, and they get about 3 points in, and then they end up in a discussion about point number 3. You're better off having the discipline to really prepare the meeting and outlay a foundation and say, listen, I just want to give a bed of information from which we can have a discussion at. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, I think the most important thing is you want them to know where you want to go. Because if they're advising you, they may think they know what you want to be in 5 years. But if you haven't elucidated that, if you haven't made that totally clear, then your advice isn't going to be spot on. And then finally, you can't leave a mentor meeting without finding what they would do. So a lot of mentors don't want to say what they personally would do, but I think that's the most important thing. You say, if you were in my situation, what would you do? Don't let them off the hook. Make sure you get actual committed answers about what to do rather than just that more reflective mentoring that you can get where they just have a discussion with you.
Some people find going into a mentor can be quite deflating because really what they're doing is poking holes in the business, whereas some might argue that that's how the mentor can deliver the most value. What advice do you give? What's the role of the mentor?
It is painful to be accountable. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, accountable to anybody is painful, and we do need that discipline. But a good mentor, in my opinion, needs to be a cheerleader as well. And I think it's really important that they are constantly reinforcing with every. There's a brilliant study done by a guy called Tom Rath in a book called How Full Is Your Bucket, and it is a massive study done through Gallup in the States. And they found out that in order to have a good relationship, and that can be a personal relationship or a business relationship, you need to give people 4 positive reinforcements for every 1 negative reinforcement. So you've got to go to a coach that is really a cheerleader, that is really an uplifter, but is also a straight talker as well. And if you don't, you end up equating the meeting with pain and you give up. It's like personal trainers. Almost everybody gives up working with a personal trainer. And the reason is, I believe, is they push you so much that it equals pain in your head to visit the personal trainer. So you give up. So that's the balance, is to be useful, but at the same time be uplifting.
Now, Simon, you recently wrote a book called Why People Fail. What are some of the reasons people fail?
Well, there's a stack of them, and I've experienced most of them. But look, I think first off, a lack of clarity. I mean, you ask the average person, where is it that you want to be precisely in 3 years? They can't tell you. If you ask someone who works in a company, what are the 3 most important tasks that you've got? They have to think about it. They can do it in a few minutes, but most people can't immediately go bam, 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 and in order, that's my priorities. And if you ask people what are the top 2 constraints to you growing your business, they can't immediately tell you what their top 2 constraints are. They simply can't. And so, as they say, if you don't know which way you're going, any road will take you there. They end up in this limbo land of semi-efficiency because they don't have clarity. So number 1 is clarity. I think number 2 is productivity. We live in a physical universe, whether we like it or not. We are in the business of moving things around physically, whether it's people, money, or actual services and products. And so we need to become experts at doing that to a high degree. Now, the truth is, you and I know people who can do in 1 week what other people can't do in 1 month. And yet, you ask the average business owner, and they say that they're working 10 hours a day, that they're exhausted, and they're still not making the money that they expected to make. So what's the problem? The problem is not that they're in the wrong business, although they usually think it is. The problem is that they're not using their time right. So there's 2 aspects of that in the broader sense. There's the actual efficiency, and then there's actual learning to get better. You see, most people just work. A few people become efficient when they work, and the greats balance efficiency with continual learning. And when you do that, 6 months later, what you've done there's just no comparison towards someone who's not efficient and is not learning, so is not getting better, in chalk and cheese. And then, look, I mean, there's 16 in the book, Why People Fail, but let me just give you one more. I think that money obsession is a big issue why people fail. The purpose of their business is just to make more money. Now, the problem is business is hard. It's tedious, it can be very boring, it can be very stressful. And what happens if all you are about is, I want to earn X grand per year, then it's often not motivating after a year or 2. It doesn't drive you. And there's a very interesting book that just came out in England called Obliquity, and it shows in business, in science, in many different areas of life, people achieve greatness when they were after something else. And in business, it's often they want to create a great company, or they want to change the world in some way. And when people have this kind of vision, they actually end up making more money. Or in advertising, you know, a lot of the ad agencies that want to actually just have a really fun environment and do beautiful work end up making more money than the ones that go into business just for more money. So I think that money obsession can be a danger as well.